Dr. Adelina Pinto, the vice president of the municipality, and was also the coordinator. Thank you a lot. Good afternoon. I will say thank you to the invite. I would like to say that I'm not an architect, nor want to. This is more of an interest. But I would like to take this moment to give you a bit of a perspective on someone who sees the city in another perspective and wants to make it better and to create different energies. The earlier presenter talked a bit about what characterizes the city, and Guimarães is it's always changing, which makes challenges to change a lot. And nowadays, it's very specific when it comes to universities. So year after year, we are bringing university more and more into the city. With the university and with the theater, but also now with the making the industrial part also be part of the university. So you have to think of we have to think of the city as a way that can bring new things and how we can walk and how we can get further. So we always talk about this because I have a very deep contact with the university. The relation between the city and the university is absolutely the national part. So people in Guimarães never do anything without the university. So we always debate and we talk about the different options because this cooperation is fundamental. This question of housing, what is very talked about nowadays is housing. And because of all the difficulties that we know about, and I also have that difficulty as someone who's responsible, is that this huge space that housing brings in terms of necessity, especially with students and different couples, suddenly the city takes our focus away from the questions that we have been talking about. We have to understand how we can add to these spaces and how to help the well-being. And I want to show you how we use this kind of thinking that we've been working for some time. How we think about this. I would just like to say that in 2001, we became a part of UNESCO. And so even then, we took away the cars so we could have different spaces that wouldn't just be traffic. We need to see city as a place for people. For people work here, for people live here, but also the people that visit us. So the city has this big challenge to keep on the quality for the people that have been here. And in 2013, when we got to the municipality, we had been the green capital since 2012. We had been the academical part of UNESCO. And we needed to understand what were we lacking. With a medium city in the north of Portugal, And we thought a bit about how the house could be common. What should we invest on in the territory? In 2013, we were starting to give the first steps. And now all these questions I've been talking about could be arranged. And from 2013 to 2025, what did it give us? As someone that has been here for these 12 years, is that what changed helped us be able to fight the challenges that are currently going on. And now we started actually looking at it in a very green way of thinking. So at the time, we were very stuck with the sustainable thinking about the water, the air. But today, in 2025, we think about everything. Because in this idea of green and the city, with people inside, and now today we think about housing, the public space, the mobility. We also think of the city, we think of community, we think of the healthcare. So we need to think of the city as something that will educate the city. We have to think of a city politically active. So let's think of a very different city today. And what they did is that having this question of habitat and how do we work with this? How do we begin with this? How can we give kids back? How can we give people back to this kind of space? And I can tell you that my biggest worry nowadays is not the school. It's not seeing people in the public space. It's not seeing kids in the public space. Not seeing kids in the park. It's not seeing kids that go by foot to school. And that has been due to multiple factors, but it's also to do with the work that we've been doing. We live in a city that's very secure, but you also make a bubble around this place. And so we think of the interior as a place for the kid to have its space. And we will pay more and more when it comes to the future. Because kids have no knowledge about where they should fit. They do not know about the city. They do not know how to enter these kinds of places. There's no this kind of space to have perversity and to actually find ourselves. And with we have this project with kids from secondary school. We built a space, and they only know how to get from place A to B by car. And in visual arts, they have a project called A Walking Body, where it makes the young people go through the city. And this work that we did made us look at this with this kind of thinking that's different. And think, how can we give back this kind of habitat to people, and how this could make people reborn, and how people could actually go with their friends, go with their colleagues, and be safe. As you know, we will be the capital of green next year. And so what we need is that we have already gotten over the resources. And this means that we are wasting 2.5 worlds throughout the year. which is which makes it very difficult for the next generations, which means that we have to reduce our footprint. And that is done by rethinking about the spaces and rethinking about cities. And so we have to think the same way that Jason showed us. And so we have to rethink the city. So we'll actually have a city, a planet where we'll have an alignment of resources. And this needs a lot of investment in our part. The first thing that we have is the lack of dignity. And when we talk about that, we have to think about the physical part. The amount of people that effectively that have a house and that fits their needs, but that still do not have the habitat that surrounds it, where they do not have a place to play, then in those kinds of places have to be worked on. And with all the work that has been done, with everything that we've been preparing, this kind of indignity has to start with the house. We cannot just put it away. And I'll just say two things. After I've been reading a lot and looking at the responses that are necessary, we need public politics that are very focused in the fact of housing. And we saw that in Austria, which made it so that Austria had a way better way at dealing with these things. And so we need that question because we are lacking of responses to the kids in university. And so we need so that the cities will be empowered in a way that so that they can rethink the housing. So they have to dote on the municipalities in a way that they can have actual money, and so we'll have better public offer that will help with the indignity. And after that, we still have all the other questions to answer. And I think that the world changes with the cities, and I think that the politics change because of the cities. And I think that's what can actually change things and bring different responses. And so this question of indignity, it's about the house, but also the space surrounding it. I think a lot about the kids because it's my line of work. And when we have a school that's problematic, we will associate it to negative places because they're not just the houses that are negative, but also the other places, because they will end up showing and reflecting. So when we get to a city, we can't just destroy it and just make it. We have to make it slowly. We have to be very calm, and we have to have the conscious that there are spaces, not only just habitational. There are zones that are in this sense of city, but we have spaces that are not dignified in the sense that they remove the education from our kids. And here there's a path that has to be done, that has to be given back. And thinking about it more than just the sector that has to do with the legislation. The fact of belonging and being part of. when we build around, we have a lot of worry with our kids to open the spaces and show the city that these places, like the cultural center of Villafleur and the theater, or the public space where there is a party. We need to understand that we have to be intentional in these spaces. There are a huge amount of theater plays and concerts, and we see that we see in the room the same people. There has to be intentionality to bring people, because everyone feels uncomfortable if they don't know the place. So this has to be disconstructed. And we've had to have an intentionality, especially with kids, to bring them to these places and be able to see them as their own spaces. Because the first times that they come, they need this kind of help. And we only feel this sense of belonging if there's this intentionality. Because if the person that gets here, they will feel always like a minority. Those ones that didn't have the same opportunities will always feel like a minority. And that may make people feel even more negative. And so when we think about this city that is green and is democratical, the city most of all has to be a place to belong to. And if there's a characteristic of the citizens that live here, is that they want to belong, so that they can give way more importance to these kinds of places. When I got to the municipality in 2013, we made a questionnaire to our students, and 80% of them, that they were outside of the urban part, did not know the historic center. They only knew the shopping center. So how can we be proud of the historic center if most of the kids don't even know? And even nowadays, it's an important mark. And we have 80% of the kids that are going to be adults and they're going to live here, and they do not know about it. We also talked about a castle that is mostly seen as a landmark by kids. And the kids in Gimenez did not even go to the castle because the kids in Gimenez were already in Gimenez. So everyone already knew the castle except the kids that already were in Gimenez. So only by opening can we understand our history. And so that way they will actually belong to. And so the sense of belonging is fundamental. And from the beginning, we understood that this was a place that was not ours. We're talking about a title that usually was given to capitals, places that were very big, and the price was around 500,000. And we tried to go in. And what we were able to show was that this feeling of belonging, especially with the space around us. That was exactly what we got with the daily work, the necessity of convincing the people in Gimenez that we needed to change our approach to sustainability. This is a feeling that we got. And so we showed that we could change the planet and the city if each of us, and we have to actually work for this kind of space and work for the next generation. This vision of this realistic and thinking of the city for people. We talked about the healthcare and the well being. And there's a study that shows that people who live from 10 minutes of a green area have less mental problems. And we have to understand that if the people that live close to our parks, how can we create this well being and mental health so we can actually gain in understanding of this habitat? The question of mobility that has been talked about, and obviously this as it's already done, but changing the city into something that's for pedestrians. So everyone says that if I talk with anyone, that they'll say that it's an exaggeration of cars. And so to answer these questions, we have to have a lot of courage. And all this allows us. And so nowadays, it is something that shows that this. And so now the way that kids get to the school, they know that there will be 10 kids passing. And so if only one of the kids is missing, they feel they feel compromised to call the city and to actually know if the kid was okay. And we have to see how the civil part can help and change the security. And it's amazing to think that kids could go by foot and going to less comfortable places that they also need to go to be able to live in the security of the city. And so the question of mobility is crucial. I would like to say that there was a tower, and so that we saw that there was a panel that told us with the different colors they meant different things. I would like to grab the question of the school. The kids usually take their kids to school by car because it's more secure. But they leave their kids in one of the most polluted spaces of the city. And so we'll need this kind of tower in all of the schools to understand the lack of security that they bring to kids. And so all this is alteration that has to be done, and it's something that we talk about a lot, the kids, and we want to make the kids be ashamed of going to school by car. And so we have to change this, the question of mobility, the question of changing, the way of acting civilized. In this a very evident way of seeing it, in a very assertive way. with a lot of credibility, to understand on the other side that there's a lot of intention. And so this what we attach ourselves to. We want to look at the people that are here and how from the city can we, using all these buildings that we know, how can we reduce our footprint? How can we make a society that's more capable? How can they understand the other in the society that actually builds a habitat that's nice and good?